What's up, guys? Today we're going to be doing my AFL predictions. Let's see what I think about some teams falling off, some teams improving, and let's get into it. So in the 18th position, I have the North Melbourne Kangaroos. I think they'll fall one position. I don't think they've got a good list. Letting go of Ben Brown, Sean Higgins makes it even worse. Their best player is probably Todd Goldstein. They did get Jaden Stevenson, who will be a good addition to that forward line. I don't think he can replace Ben Brown or do anything like that. So I think it'll be a hard season for the North Melbourne fans. I don't hate North Melbourne. I just don't think they have a good list. So unfortunately, I think it'll be a few years before you get anywhere up the table, potentially heading for finals. 18th for North Melbourne this year. In 17th position, I have Adelaide. Now, this is an interesting one because they arguably haven't really gotten anyone into the list and lost players like Brad Crouch to St Kilda, where North Melbourne have kind of replaced a tiny bit with Jaden Stevenson. Not really. I do think that Adelaide, with the list they have, it's still better than North Melbourne's. I think it was just unlucky last season. I think they played bad, but I think they'll improve on that. I think they'll get 5 wins this year, and I think they'll finish second to bottom. So I don't think they'll get the wooden spoon this year. But I do still think they won't be the best team in the world. There you go. So this is going to get a lot of people angry. I do think Essendon have a good list. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything this season, though. I think they'll be tied with Adelaide. They'll only finish in 16th on percentage. It's a bit of a wild claim. It's probably, in my opinion, my biggest, bold prediction for Essendon to fall off so much, especially when they've still got quality like Zach Merritt, Dylan Shield in their team. I think Adam Saad will really hurt him, and the player they tried to get in to replace him is Nick Hind, who's a good player, but he's nowhere near the quality of Adam Saad. And I know this because I'm a Saints fan, and I watched him play for us. He's not the best player in the world. He's okay, but he's not going to replace Adam Saad, so I think they're at a big loss. I don't think it's big enough for them to warrant this drop-off. I just think, I don't know. My brain just is like, they are going to have a terrible season. And this is why I just think Adam Saad will be a big loss. And I don't see them recovering. So, next we've got Hawthorn in 15th. Now, some of my best friends are Hawthorn supporters. So, there's a bit of rivalry. They didn't have a great season last season. I think they'll win one more game. But in the extended season, because there'll be more games this season, they're going to lose more games as well. I think that they've got an okay list. They're on the rebuild. In 1 or 2 seasons, I could see them being 12th, 10th, 9th, pushing for finals. I don't see it this season. I think they'll have another season in that bottom 4, bottom 5 period. I think they'll be here at the end of the season. I don't know. A 72.6 percentage is very low. A lot of my predictions have low percentages though on. It's a bit weird, but, I just think that, yes, they've got a few good players like James Worpel, Tom Mitchell, arguably one of the best players in the league. Top 5, probably. They've got a few other good players. They brought in Tom Phillips from Collingwood. He could be pretty good. But overall, I just don't think their squad is good enough overall. I think they've got really good top-end talent like Tom Mitchell, but they don't have that top-end talent enough around. Luke Bruce was disappointing last season. Jack Gunston really carried them up front and down back. So I think they'll have another, to some people, to most Hawthorn fans, a disappointing season. So this is a bit of a ridiculous thing that I have Gold Coast falling. I don't know. I mean, Noah Anderson and Matt Rowell. Matt Rowell had 2 really good games, but they were 2 really good games. Luke Dunstan had 1 amazing game. if he returns from injury and plays a lot of games like he did, if he plays all his games, Matt Rao, this season, and he plays like he did in the 2 games last season, then it'll be incredible, and I'll probably be eating my words. Noah Anderson was quite disappointing. I just don't think they've got a good enough list to do anything major, not to improve. They're definitely not improving, and I think they'll go back. I think the longer season will hurt the young guns' legs. I don't think that they'll be able to recover this season. What I do think they'll get this season is experience for their young players. Hopefully, Matty Rao, Noah Anderson, and their other young players can get experience from this season, play on, and then next season they could maybe make a challenge for finals if Matty Rao and Noah Anderson are playing at their best. Yeah, I think Gold Coast will negative. They'll go down the ladder, but I think it might be better because they might get a better draft pick to bring in another young gun, and I think their young guns will have 1 more year of experience. So there you go. So I've got Sydney Swans pushing up the ladder this year. I think they've just got such a good young squad that after last season, I think they'll improve. I think John Longmire is a good coach. I think he'll get them up the ladder. I think they're impressive. I don't think they'll make finals, and I don't think they'll really challenge. But I do think they'll push up the table. They'll get up a few spots. They'll go up, 3 spots from where they finished last season. I think it'll be good for players like Isaac Heaney maybe to get a good run of games. He only played 6 games last season. And I just think if Lance Franklin returns, they're destined to have a better season. So I think they'll move up. There's not much to say about Sydney. I think they'll move up the ladder. I think the young guns like Isaac Heaney, Nick Blakey, they'll get better. Lance Franklin hopefully will return, and he'll be really good and promising for them. Not much else to say about Sydney. Let's go on to the next one. So, in 12th position, I have the Giants, finishing just 1 position over the Swans. I think the Giants are a good team, a good roster, but I think it'll be another season of disappointment for the Giants. I just think that after that grand final loss, they won't be able to recover, and I'm worried that this might end up in something like an Adelaide story, where they just collapse after losing heavily in a grand final to Richmond. They do have good players, obviously, but one big thing, I think, is the fact that Jeremy Cameron has left. And their main source of goals, you could pretty much say the entire existence of the Giants is gone. So that's going to be another big reason for them falling. I just think they won't be able to improve. I think I could see them maybe making the finals if some of their star players are still there. Jump up, have great seasons, and show that they're Brownlow medalists. But if that doesn't happen, I just don't think that in some areas they're just getting weaker because they're failing to deliver premierships with such a good squad, such a good young squad, that they're going over to teams like Richmond, Geelong, who are consistently making top 4 finals, premierships. I just think that they've lost Zach Williams, they lost Jeremy Cameron. Zach Williams not massive, but he's a good player. Jeremy Cameron's massive because, as I said, he's been their leading goal scorer for ever and forever. So they could really struggle. Apart from that, there's nothing really else to say. I just think that they won't be able to cope with losing Jeremy Cameron. Next up, we have the Fremantle Dockers. I put them in 11th position, improving slightly because I don't know why. I just think that there are other teams that will do worse than them. They were not great last season. They weren't horrific. They were okay. They didn't make finals. I think players like Nat Fife, He's obviously great. He won the Brownlow 2 seasons ago. He's great. Other players like I forgot. Nat Fife, big reason they'll do well. Sam Darcy, a nice up and coming ruckman. They got rid of Jesse Hogan. So yeah, that's a positive. There's not much to say about Freo. And I don't think they've improved their roster so much. I just think that other teams won't do as well. So I think Freo will finish 11th. With their roster list in other seasons, they might be finishing bottom 12. Yeah, bottom 6. But I think they'll be one of the closer teams to the finals with a 10-13 record. I think they'll be okay this season for Collingwood. The Magpies. We all know what's going on with their president, Eddie Maguire. He's quit the job. So that's a big thing. Big change at Collingwood. You have questions over Nathan Buckley, whose contract, I believe, does run out at the end of this season. So, questions on whether he'll be staying more than this year. They trade period, was like forcing out Jaden Stevenson and Adam Treloar. Not great. I just think they're bound to miss the finals this season. I'm sorry. I don't hate the Magpies as well. I think they're bound to miss the finals. I don't think they're good enough. I think they'll drop off Adam Treloar, Jaden Stevenson. Them leaving, that's going to cause just everything that's gone around them since the end of last season has been so controversial and that because they've had so much going around. They've by far had the most publicised off season. It's been incredibly publicised. I think that they will do okay. I don't know how good. I think they'll be a good team. I just don't think they'll make the finals. I don't think they're good enough. And you'll see the teams that are coming up in my finals in a second. And you'll go, Collingwood have a better list. Yes, but I think that everything's going on with the club is I think the same thing as the Giants. I think even though they've arguably got a better list than some of the teams in my top 8, they will still do worse because of everything that's going on in the off-season. Well, that's enough about me ranting about the Magpies. Let's move on to the last team who I think will miss out in the finals. Well, here it is, the grand reveal. The Melbourne Demons are the final team to miss out on the top 8. If you've been tracking at home, then you will know my top 8 already. You don't know which order, but you know the teams that are in it. Well, Melbourne. The Melbourne Demons. They'll have a good season. The 11-11, they'll have an NBA words, a 500 season. So 50%, 50-50 on the wins and losses counter. I can clarify, I don't know if you want to know this, but I don't think there'll be any draws this season. Even though the AFL is getting a lot closer. Well, back to Melbourne Demons. Melbourne Demons. I think they're a good team. I think they've got a good list. I think players like Clayton Oliver are going to lead them to this record. I think they're going to be a good team. Just how good? In my opinion, not good enough to make the finals. I've been watching a few ladder predictions on YouTube, and I've seen a lot of people swapping out the Pies for the Demons. I don't think the Demons are good enough to make the finals. I think maybe. Actually, they are good enough to make the finals. Just in my opinion, there's 8 teams that are better than them and have better chances of making the finals. My 8, if you've been tracking at home, there's only one change to my top 8 from last season. In the top 8 teams. Not in the order, but in the top 8 teams. So, let's get on with the top 8. And let's see, if you haven't been tracking at home and you've forgotten who the team that I've swapped Magpies out for, we're about to find out. Well, you've seen it before I've started talking. Yes, the team I believe that will sneak instead of the Magpies is the Carlton Blues. Now, a lot of people are going to go like, what? Carlton, Giants, Collingwood, Melbourne, maybe even the Dockers have better lists than the Carlton Blues. But I think that the fight of this team, a team that has won the equal most amount of premierships, hasn't made the finals since, is it 2012? They will make the finals. They will do it. Patrick Cripps, Sam Walsh, if Paddy Dow can get a few games and prove himself, that is a good midfield trio. Not to mention players like if Charlie Curnow can get back and he can play in the forward line, that's another forward presence. If Ed Curnow can play well in the midfield, Adam Sard coming out of the back line along with Zach Williams, they've got speed, they've got strength, they've got attacking hunger. It's a team that wants to fight for the fans and they want to get back into the finals. I think this team will make the finals for the first time since 2012. And I think that they've got a good enough squad to do it. Carlton Blues are my 8th team. Well, I tried this one time and I kept blabbering on about the Saints. So let's focus on the Bulldogs. They've got a good team, new additions, Adam Treloar. They've got already good players in Josh Dunkley, James Johannesson, Marcus Bontempelli, Easton Wood, Lockie Hunter. There's probably a bunch of other people that I just forget the names of. This team, Aaron Norton, this team really, really has a chance to go top 4. But I think that there are 5 other teams in the league that have a better squad than this. There's one team that doesn't, or clearly doesn't, and that, in my opinion, is St Kilda. But I think St Kilda have better fight, and I think, arguably, people could make a point in Alice being slightly better. I think the Bulldogs' midfield is stacked. Like, that is arguably one of the best midfields in the league. It's up there with West Coast. Obviously, West Coast didn't really turn up last year, especially in the finals. I think the Bulldogs will make it. And I think that they'll move on to the semi-finals as well. Had back-to-back. This is the 3rd season in a row they'll finish 7th. If my prediction is correct, it'll be the 3rd season in a row they finish 7th. I don't think, though, that they will. It'll be the 3rd season in a row where they get knocked out in the first round of the finals to the 6th team. Good luck, Western Bulldogs. I like the team. It's probably one of my top 5 favourite teams. Good luck. 7th for you. The West Coast Eagles are my 6th team. Most of you are expecting to go, the Saints are 6th. The West Coast Eagles are 5th. And then the top 4 is the same. I can tell you the top 4 is not in the same order. And maybe there's one extra team in there. Maybe. But yes, I think the West Coast Eagles will drop off. I think they will fall to 6th. I think that'd be disappointing because their midfield is so good. And they had that blockbuster trade at the end of premiership season, their premiership season, where they got Tim Kelly from Geelong. And Tim Kelly was so good at Geelong that they got him off. And people were like, oh, West Coast, they're probably going to go do... They're gonna win again. They didn't. They didn't win again. Tim Kelly hasn't done much at the Eagles. Their midfield, it was supposed to be the best in the comp last 2 seasons, hasn't been great. And I think they're going to get worse because Josh Kennedy, Jack Darling, those players were so good, those forwards were so good in their premiership winning season, are getting older. If they want to win another one and have this little area of success, then they have to win, now. Next 2 years now. Because they're getting older and they're going to have to try and find other forwards. And you're not going to try, unless you get lucky in the draft, you're not going to get anyone from the draft if you get making finals each year. So maybe they look to trade them on, maybe. But I think, I don't think that it'll be a big drop-off. I think they might lose one upset game, and that might be the difference between them being 5th and being 6th. Let's move on to number 5. So with the announcement of this team, the top 4 is now, there. You don't know the order of them, but you know who's there. I did want to put my Saints in the top 4 because I love them, but I couldn't do it because I've already pushed them up to 5th, and there's the Western Bulldogs and the West Coast Eagles, but below us. I think we're still a good team, but I think there's actually more chance of us finishing 7th. We'll be in that 7th to 5th range. I could maybe see us sneaking into 4th if we have a good season, but that would require us... I reckon we could have finished top 4 last season. We could have very much finished 4th, maybe even 3rd last season. But we dropped silly games. We probably should have beat West Coast. We should have beat North Melbourne. We should have beat Fremantle. Those silly games that we dropped cost us maybe a position in the top 3 or 4. If we win those games, if we win those 3 games, we go into the top 4. We go ahead of Geelong and West Coast. Maybe even Richmond. So, to think that makes you go, we could do very well. If we don't drop games to silly teams like we did last season, then we could very, very well be a top team in the league. And I think we could do that. So that's why I'm putting us 5th. But I do reckon if we slip up, and we probably will, we could drop to 7th. Maybe even 8th. I think a disappointing season for the Saints would be missing the finals. Well, let's get on to my top 4. So in the number 4 position, I have the Geelong Cats. Now, I've got them staying in the same position they were in last year. I think they're still a good team, and this probably won't reflect their finals. And I know some people have them finishing first. I don't know why I put Geelong 4th. I just feel that they're not like Richmond. They're not all of Richmond's premierships, they haven't finished first. And I think Geelong are also one of those premiership teams where they might not turn up in the regular season, but come finals time, come the big game, they show off with players like Tom Hawkins, Luke Dallas. I don't even know if he really plays for them. Sean Higgins, Jeremy Cameron, Josh Jenkins, the big game blokes. I think arguably in the big games, Geelong might even have a better squad than Richmond. But I think they're going to do like a Richmond, and they might win the flag, but I think more so they're not gonna do the best they could in the regular season. Next up, in third position, we have the Port Adelaide Power. Now, I have seen a lot of people putting them 7th, 8th, 6th, 5th, outside the top 4. But I generally think this list is a good list, and I generally think it's a top 4 team. Ken Hinkley is a good coach, and he's gonna get them. He's gonna get them to the top 4 position again. They will drop off 2 spots. I do think that first was a bit of a stretch, but I think the top 4 isn't, and I think they should make top 4 this season. I think. If they do, then I'll be very pleased. I think they could finish anywhere in the top 4. I still think maybe they could be a first team. But for me, they're third right now. Not much else to say. The lists stayed the same pretty much. They're going to make top 4 again. Pretty much, my opinion. I know some people will think, yes, they're still a good team, they're still a finals team, but they're going to drop out of the top 4 because they're not a top 4 team, and West Coast will come into that top 4. Or maybe St Kilda, or maybe the Bulldogs. And I generally see that happening. But I'm going to go with my prediction, and I'm going to say top 4 again. Okay, in my second position, the position they were in last year, Brisbane. I think they're a good team. I think they've got a strong team. I think they'll finish second again. And if we look at their finals run, the last 2 seasons, the 2 teams they played 4 finals over the last 2 seasons. In the 4 games they've played, all 4 of their opponents, so in the year where they got knocked out in straight sets in the qualifying and semi, Giants and Richmond were their opponents. The eventual runners-up and winners. It was Richmond and Geelong last season, the eventual runners-up and winners. So I think they've had a hard run, but I think they're still a good team, and I think they'll find themselves here next season. I also think they're a regular season team. They're a home and away season team. They can also probably do well in the finals, and I think after 2 final series, 4 finals, I think the young players will finally, hopefully, have enough experience to maybe take them to a grand final. It was all set last season for them to make a grand final, and they just couldn't do it. They fell at the final hurdle to making grand final, which is so disappointing. And I felt disappointed because I was watching the game, and I wanted Brisbane to make it, because if there was any year that Brisbane were going to win a flag, it would be the year that it was hosted in Brisbane. Unfortunately, it ended up being 2 Victorian teams. So what can you do? Yeah, overall, I think Brisbane are second. Let's get on with who I think are the minor premiers. Let's finish up this video quickly. It's a long one, I know. So, Richmond. They're Richmond. I know they haven't actually won a minor premiership and won the actual premiership. They did make the minor premiership in 2018, but they ended up getting belted by Geelong in Collingwood in the preliminary final, thanks to a Mason Cox masterclass. There's not much to say. They're Richmond. They've won 3 premierships in 4 years. If they win this one and they get a 3-peat, G. If Richmond can hold on to this squad and they can perform and win premierships like the next 2 seasons, I wonder how many premierships Richmond have won. I'm going to have to search that up, and I want to see. because they must be 1 or 2 away from Carlton and Essendon. I think they must be at least 15. They might even be tied. I'll have to check that. For now, see you guys later. Richmond are my minor premiers. North Melbourne my wooden spoon. Essendon my surprise package to fall. Carlton my surprise package to rise. See you guys in the next one. Adios.